Hello, good people. This episode is a continuation from the previous episode. So if you didn't check it out, you can check it out first and then you can come to this one. Stay tuned and thank you so much for the support.
You know, so they were saying like men between the ages of 16 and 60 cannot leave the country.
Mm,
They have to stay in the country to fight, right?
mm,
And someone was asking like, what happened to equality now? Like, why aren't we fighting this so that we also say, it doesn't have to be gender. It just has to be no one is leaving the country. You get what I'm saying?
mm.
And then this lady goes on to say, men are the ones who start the wars, so they have to fight the wars. To me, I was like, dang. Like, it felt really painful. Like, that's when I realized that, this is how it's going to be. This is what it is, and it might never change. you know, and I'm like, if you have a son, and he's the one who's being told he can't leave simply because he's a man, would you say the same shit that you're saying? And this person who was saying this is someone who was in South Africa. They don't even understand, you know, what. So to me, I was just like, I don't know where we're going, but I can't probably change how people behave or how people think, you know. And the last one, I'm a big fan of Chris Brown's music. Not him, I don't know him, but I've been a
Mhm,
huge fan of his music. 2 weeks
mhm,
ago, there was a woman who was saying, he raped her and stuff like that. She was suing for like 20 million. And then just yesterday, and everyone was bashing him, saying all sorts of bullshit. And then it turns out she was lying. He had like text messages, he had voice notes, he had, you know, kind of stuff to prove that this girl was just there for the money,
mhm.
but they don't talk about it. So the disrespect, the volume is very high, but the apology, you never hear anything. It's like,
No.
you
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying? So I just think as people, we have to practice empathy, like you were saying the last time. Because if we don't do that, if you don't put yourself in someone else's shoes, I think we're going to cause a lot of damage, man. Like a lot of people are just walking out here, but they're just damaged because even if they try to say something, no one is going to listen to them. You know,
Mm.
it's crazy. And if it continues, I think suicide rates are going to even be higher because right now they're crazy, but
Yeah.
I, but I don't see it getting better.
Uh, wow, you said quite a bit there. And that's gonna be me really working my memory to see how well it works. I guess earlier there were two things that I wanted to follow up with you about, and they still haven't changed.
Yeah,
And I agree with a lot of what you said in jest, and I do follow most of what you said as well. And I appreciate the richness of the example you gave for Africa and how communal people used to be versus now. And I agree that your observations, and I just want to make it clear, I don't think your observations are invalid, even if they lack numbers.
yeah,
I see plenty of validity in observations and qualitative stuff. However, I was also adding to that by saying to further validate observations
mm,
outside of just numbers, even if we just use a qualitative tool, which is a camera,
yeah,
right? I think there were less of those available back then. And I guess it goes back to one of our other conversations, which a lot of these conversations that I've had with you flow and lead into the other, like they're chronological.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're all, it's going to come back full circle at time. But um, one of the conversations we had was about choice versus circumstance, and I was leaning towards circumstance being more powerful, and you were leaning towards choice, and we both agreed that we're probably both wrong, whatever, but at
Yeah.
the same, we,
But we ended up saying it pretty much works hand in hand. Like,
yes, you can't have one without the other.
yeah,
Um, and I think in this case, if we were to describe, well, all right, is loneliness a choice or is suicide a choice, if you will? Uh, that brings up the same question of, well, all right, which one came first, the chicken or the egg?
egg. Yeah, definitely,
So that's a never ending conversation.
for sure.
Uh, and I think it's because of how much we don't know.
Mm,
We may claim to know now that I think the only thing that is certain, and I mean this, the only thing that's certain, especially amongst living organisms, uh, is that ability, that capacity to relate to each other, and that's empathy. Because I truly believe without it, you do have the absence of anything,
mm,
any ability to relate to it, which you said earlier, which is apathy, and um, that to me is frankly even worse than the suicidal person.
yeah,
Because a person is void of any ability or any interest in the other person.
yeah,
And a lot of empathy and sympathy nowadays is disguised. Um, sorry, a lot of apathy I'm sorry, a lot of apathy is disguised as something good, which is empathy,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's the but I frankly don't know if people really. It's really messy and really hard to describe the times that we're in. Um,
yeah. Trust me.
but but I would say humbly from where I sit, there's a lot more apathy than empathy. I see a lot less empathy than I do apathy, and I did that. I think this is a difference between us. I was very pessimistic, or if not pessimistic, I lacked a lot of hope for us as
Hmm.
human beings. I lacked a lot of hope for me. I lacked a lot of hope for my would be, possibly could be son. So if I had a son
Yeah, it's a wrap.
or a daughter, I had a real sense of darkness about their future.
Yeah,
Uh, and I don't have that darkness or that hopelessness anymore. But I would be lying if I didn't say if I didn't have, like I don't have any concerns. That's not true. I do have concerns. I do have concerns. I wouldn't
yeah.
have these conversations with you if I didn't. Um, so a lot of what you said there, I'm pretty sure I'm missing stuff. I'm going to listen to this later and I'm going to be like, I should have touched on that and that and that.
Yeah.
But
I was about to cut you off. It just, but yeah, it's fine because I wanted to say something. I wanted to quickly respond to something, and then
oh, okay. You can go ahead.
yeah, like when you're saying, our sons or our daughters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: you trying to tell them a different narrative than what's being pushed out there. You are
Hmm.
silenced. You don't even have the opportunity to do that. You can't even speak on.
Right.
We can't even disagree nowadays. So
Right.
you can see something that you don't agree with. Your son goes to school. They teach them. They tell them, this is the way of life. This is how things are. This is how you're supposed to navigate life. You know that number one, if you correct them and they say what you're telling them in public, it might
Hmm.
cause them problems because it's not allowed for them to speak like that,
Hmm.
right? So now they can't have a mind of their own. So it's going to be very challenging because they might, what you're telling them might be going against the grain, of which you understand that nowadays going against the grain is illegal.
Yeah.
You can be crucified. You can, you can your life can be taken away. Simply because people don't want to account for their actions. People don't want you to have a conversation because I think having a conversation is one of the biggest things that we are lacking these days.
Yep.
Because that whole victim mindset, that's where the problem is. Because you trying to sit down with someone and saying, "Oh, I understand what you're saying, but my problem with what you're saying is this and this and this." Challenging someone else's belief system, if it doesn't go with the masses, you're fucked. There's
Well,
nothing.
there's there's a lot that you said there. But man, there, there are more problems than we can identify, and then there are more problems than out there at this time that we can identify or even have identified already. Like
That's true.
it's too many.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. One thing that I almost forgot. Nowadays, because we are now promoting the victimhood mindset, you understand that normal things like being sad, we're now making them extreme, like
Yeah,
anxiety. I'm
yeah,
depressed. We're
yeah.
just sad, right? Like those are emotions that we experience as human beings. Sometimes you're sad, sometimes uh, you're you're scared.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're anxious,
No.
right? There's a difference. But nowadays we just put everything into just one umbrella term and just say, this is what you're going through. I'm feeling, I have so much anxiety. No, you don't.
Right.
But at the same time, I can't really argue that, because if someone is saying that's how they feel, but we are setting our kids up for failure, because we're telling them that having normal feelings or emotions like being sad, it's being depressed, right?
And that's what I wanted to touch on. That when I mentioned the kids, when I mentioned that, and you piggybacked on like them engaging in group think
Yeah,
in, instead of thinking for themselves. That's a very valid concern. It's a concern that I had, but I believe that that concern and all the other concerns that we've aired and all the other concerns that could come up, I think a big solution, at least one solution, uh, is empathy. Because whether you're a radical political person that's a libertarian that thinks, okay, everything should be by itself, whether you're a Nazi, whether you're left, whether you're right, whether you're this or that, whether you're whether you're religious, if you can look someone in the eye and see that this person has red blood just like you, that usually is a very good place to start to have common ground.
you think so?
You, you may not agree with a damn thing this person says, but that's a human being. That's it. That's it. Or that's a living thing. We do it with other species.
But
Other
are we
other
still
species
are
do
we
it.
still the actual, like, are we still there? I think we are moving further away from that, and I think there are people who stand to benefit, because if everyone
No,
is prescribed of antidepressants.
well, this is where your pessimism, if I may say that, and my optimism differ. I am sorry, I just have too much evidence that says the world is a better place today than it ever was in history, in spite of all the concerns that we've aired, in spite of wars, which not to belittle what's happening in Ukraine or the invasion, in spite of wars, in spite of pandemics, in spite of disinformation, misinformation, or lack thereof, in spite of every single thing, in spite of slavery, in spite of all the things that have happened. Today is the best time to be alive, the best time to be born, period, 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 from at least from my observation, and in my short lifetime, compared to the cosmos, which is a not even a blink of an eye, within my lifetime, I've seen more people alive than those dying. Life itself is winning the game of survival. You know, we have more human beings today on Earth than we did before. There's less hunger. There's less crime. There's less. There's less. What should I say? Less poverty than when I was 14 years old, 20 years ago.
Really?
Yes,
Where,
yes. Here, well, I can't tell people where we are.
bro?
There's, there's,
C-
there's,
c-
there's no, hold on. Just, no, I just want to be clear. I can give numbers if you want. In a tiny little island called Jamaica, there was 20 years ago there was 2.3, 2.4 million people. Now, at 3 million odd people, there's 3 million people in Jamaica. 20 years ago, in 2000, 22 years ago, you can go further.
mm.
In the year 2000, there were, you can check it, there was according to the information out there was 5 billion people on Earth. Just over 5 billion. Now there's almost 8 billion. In the last 20 years, we've had recessions. Not one, not two. Recessions. We've had pandemics. We've had misinformation, disinformation to kill us all. We've had Facebook waves coming in hot, real hot. And in spite of that, just in one country, in China, they did a count the other day. I don't know if it's true because the information in that country is sometimes opaque, sometimes, but they've raised almost nine. So it's 800 million people out of poverty. A fraction of them are billionaires. A fraction of them are in the middle class. So I'm not gonna try to compare different white people systems, capitalism, this and that. All I'm saying is I'll say it to it like I say it to a baby. If you're 5 years old, there are more of us alive today than when I was born. Period.
But what do they
That's
look
it.
like? Because most of them are aging populations. That's what I'm saying. Like, because even in China, they're trying to.
Did you hear what if you listen to the news, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make this clear. If you listen to the news and if you follow, yes, social media, and if you follow all the trends that are out there, you would think the world is on fire and there's less of us today than there have ever been before, and it's the worst time to be alive. This is a disaster of a time to be alive. What a horrible! I wouldn't want to bring a child into this world because the climate is going to blow up. But climate change, which I'm not disputing, I'm just saying all of these things, you put them together, you would think the world is on fire. And I'm sorry, the answer is not so. The answer is no,
I,
no,
you might
no.
think that, but I have to disagree with you on that, man. Like, back, I even with our parents, like my grandfather had like 10, 15 kids. You can't do that now. Like, even me as a parent, I'm telling you, like, in as much as it sounds great, like things are easier now. I get that. Things are easier now. Like can access, things easily, but it does not necessarily mean that things are better.
Things are better.
I would like because
It's not. It's not a. It's not a. It's not a. It's
because
not a
if
if.
people if people because if no
Yeah.
access and technology, yeah, that's fine, but us as the human species, it seems as if we are becoming more unhappy. Like,
And
is life
that,
easier? Is it easier? Like, of course, like you don't have to die because you have a toothache. You don't have to, all those things I understand. But I mean,
mhm.
socially, because the family has been broken. Like, there's no family anymore. Like I was saying, we don't. Some people, they don't even know what it feels like to live with two parents in the house, which is part of us being human beings. I remember
Oliver, Oliver, hold
even
on,
the
hang on.
food that we're eating.
Just hear me out real quick. I just want to say this before I lose it from my mind. There is life, therefore there is hope. And I mean that. I mean that. Because no, seriously, we're losing track. And again, I'm not belittling empathy. I'm not belittling any of the stuff that you've mentioned. I'm not belittling any of it. What I'm trying to mention though is that there is good news that has not been put out there or is not being stated often enough. There is good news. There is life. Therefore, there is hope. You would think that there are half of us left on Earth. That's the impression that you get from the news. That oh shit, there's 2.5 billion of us. Even though there was 5 billion of us last year. That's not the no. We
But
percent
what does that have to do with the number of people on Earth? You can have one kid and they'll be happy, and you could have 10 kids and you'll be in poverty. So how does the number of the people in the world affect
affect what?
what you're saying? Like just because we have more
Uh,
people in the world, it means now like things are now
man,
better now.
here's why I mentioned it. First and foremost, the worst case scenario, in my opinion, is if all of us are dead.
Okay.
So I'm starting from that premise.
Okay.
Okay, if we're looking at this in a binary sense, life or death, philosophers usually uh, uh, use these competing ideas to say, well, one is always outdoing or outwinning the other. Well, if you were to put a scorecard of life and death today within my lifetime, I'm not talking about billions of years ago. I'm just talking about the last 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 billion more people today here than there were when I was born. In spite of the deaths, we have more people born and alive and thriving today than before. We have
Thriving,
hold
thriving,
on,
thriving in
hold on,
terms of what?
hold on. How does this relate to empathy and loneliness and suicidality? If you have hopelessness, you want to die. So I am saying there's plenty of reason to live. And if history is an indicator of the future, we're doing well because history has shown progress. It was not possible for my grandfather to live in a foreign country and do what I'm doing, speak 2 languages, learn neuroscience at the PhD level, teach at an international high school, and speak to a friend over the phone during a pretty serious time, and to be able to speak like he couldn't do half of what I'm doing.
But
He couldn't
was he happier than the person who's here? Because the thing is, just because I'm alive does not mean that I'm happy. Like I could have a terrible life, 30 years.
Okay, so fine, you're speaking about quality of life, and that is extremely subjective, and maybe listeners will believe we have a lower quality of life. We're unhappier today than we've ever been. I would humbly, honestly disagree. Not disputing terrible regions, terrible places on earth that we don't want to visit. I don't know any white woman that wants to go to Iraq or to go to vacation in the bomb parts of Ukraine right now, or even some parts in Africa, or some very bad parts of Jamaica. No, I don't know anybody that wants to vacation there. But but there's less bad places that I know of today than when I was born. We have countries that now have a longer what do they call it? Sorry, longevity. What's the word?
Lifespan.
Long longer life. Thank you so much. A longer lifespan today.
Mm-hmm.
So not just it's not just about the life itself, which I was pointing on a basic level, but yes, actual quality of life appears to be metrically, empirically better across the board when you factor in a number of variables. This is where it gets technical with numbers to say, okay, yes. So if you look at it both statistically or if you look at it numerically and otherwise, there's no better time in history to be born. Therefore, today is better than yesterday. That's good news.
Yo,
Now,
man,
are we?
I don't
Now,
know what
hold
you're
on, hold on,
talking about.
hold on. Hold on. Are we where we want to be? No. Are there concerns? Yes. Are there certain traditions, some mores, some values that we really wish would come back? Yes. Yes. But if I were to make a case for life, if somebody were listening to this and I'm the only voice that they've heard in a while, I'm the only friend supposedly, I would say to you, sir, madam, whoever you are, that there's more reasons ever to live today than there are to go. I mean that with my heart. I mean that I mean that sincerely. The fact that we can complain about men becoming women or whatever, I'll take that because they're alive. It's life. That's what I'm talking about. It's life. I don't hear that enough. If I may be very honest with you, Oliver,
But it
I
goes
don't I
against
don't
what
hear
we're
that.
saying, though. It goes against what we're saying because we're talking about that the quality of life is what's leading to, depression and all
No,
things
no, no.
like that.
Okay. No. Hold on. State of mind is what we defined.
Yeah, but
What,
how you don't just you don't just wake up today and then you have a certain state of mind. It's because of certain things that will lead you to that. You don't just wake up today and say, "Oh, my state of mind today is, I'm suicidal." No, it's a process. It's a process, and
I agree. I agree with
the
you.
because the thing is, if we just put it under the rug and then we don't deal with
No, no.
actual issues that are causing this situation, then it'll be a Disney fairy tale. Like that's what I would think. But if we look at the factors and say, look, as a as humans, this is where we're going wrong. How do we fix it? Because if we continue like this, and you're still not able to express your views and opinions, and you're always
Mm-mm.
silenced, then how are things gonna get better? Because it's, if they can silence the president of the USA and say he can't talk, he can't
Mm.
express how he feels. What about you? What about me?
Oliver, it's intimidating times, but
But I'm
we
saying
are.
if we don't change, what I'm saying is if we,
No, okay. We have changed. We gotten to a point now. Sorry, where we are today versus before. I think my dad can tell you times that were much worse than what we're discussing now. I'm sorry. History. I'm sorry. My life is evidence that that things have gotten better. I think we're just gonna agree to disagree on it. But I don't want to sound as though I'm disputing or reversing anything I said earlier. No, it's the opposite. It's to say if there's somebody on the phone or sorry, well, on listening to us right now
mm-hmm,
that is feeling lonely, that is feeling despair, as I defined clinically earlier,
yeah,
and they were searching for reasons to go on, for reasons to live. And there's two messages. There's one saying, life is not worth living. This is a terrible world. It's worse than it's ever been. That's one side. And another side is saying, things are bad, but things have been worse.
but I think you can only say that to someone. But listen, that's
O-
that's uh that's an umbrella term. But if my experiences and what I'm going through, you can
Okay.
tell me that life has been better here, life has been, but there's no proper diagnosis as to the situation that I'm going through. Because you can say life is the best now. Life, if I
No,
don't
no,
know
no.
what it was back then, and right now I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, like
Right.
I need tangible solutions as to like what I'm going through, like how did I end up here? So that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Fair.
Like I'm not saying like it's not the best
Mm.
time to be alive, But I think it's good that we're alive and we can fix the problems. That's
Including loneliness.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. But
Just to be clear.
yeah, but I'm not
Yeah.
disputing that. But what I'm saying is, if we're saying it's the best time to be alive, that's good. I like that, but I don't. It's also good for us to figure out ways of making sure that it's not just words.
Okay.
It is because you saying we have a chance. I agree with you. We have a chance to turn things around. We have a chance to not just some of the things that are happening are good. We have a chance to fix the wrongs or whatever things that we might be getting wrong because we're human beings. Because there's certain things that we have normalized where if things were different, maybe would have a different outcome. And like for example, if you're going through stuff and you go to your parents, if parents start to accept that my kid is going through stuff, let me pay attention to what they're saying and then I can help them in this way instead of just saying you're not white, you can't be depressed. Those are some of the things, so some of the solutions that we can use to make sure that we move forward. And that's all I'm saying. But because if we just sit and say life is the best now and we don't come up with solutions as to how do we
Fair enough.
how do we make sure that on the ground like it becomes everyone's reality, because it might be your reality but there's someone who might be going through stuff and they're like, this guy is saying life is the best now when I'm going through this. So maybe it's because of the context I was, because I understand.
Okay. All right. It's very reasonable. It's very
but
reasonable.
but if you, because it sounds like those motivational speakers when they say you just have to believe and things
No,
will
no,
be
no, no,
fine.
no, 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 no. What I was so I all right. I appreciate you saying that. That's very important to me. There are people out there that are going through real despair, and it's not up to me, an uncertified, unlicensed person, to help them. I am a human being, and I'm offering what I'm offering as information, as stuff that I think is useful and helpful. But the best help that they can get today is professional help, in my honest opinion,
Yeah.
and professional help on a clinical level where they seek a mental health professional who is a counselor, psychiatrist, or psychologist who can walk them through whatever issues they have. Outside of just seeing a friend and maybe hopefully addressing any feelings of loneliness, this is stuff that they have to, I hope, that they seek professional help for. And I can say personally that I um, had real issues over the last 2 years with loneliness. And that's why I can speak so personally about it. I was there. I probably didn't have as much trials and tribulations as others may have, especially in other regions of the world.
Yeah.
I admit that I have my privilege um, to be who I am and to be where I'm from. I
and,
understand
and
that.
you had to take
Uh,
necessary steps for you to get out of that hole, for you to say, what,
right. And
if someone had told you when you were there, just, hey nigga, this is the best time to be alive, you would have probably told them, fuck you.
no, no, I didn't. No, well, no, I. If somebody said to me, "It's the best time to be alive, get over it," that's when I would say "fuck you." But I just want to be very clear. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying was, it's not. It things used to be worse statistically for everybody in around the world. Now, it may not feel that way for you, and your situation is your situation.
Yeah, of
You
course.
feel how right now. You feel how you feel right now, and nothing anybody says. Who gives a fuck if the world is better? I am not. I get it, and I'm saying, thankfully, it can be addressed. Thankfully, you are here now, and as bad as you feel now, there's still hope, in my opinion, for you to do better. And you don't need my opinion for that. There's actual evidence, there's proof of this. You can get help today. In other words, I just want to be very clear.
But
If my grandpa hold on,
sure,
hold
sure,
on, hold
sure,
on,
sure, yeah.
hold on. If my grandpa was 34 years old feeling like shit, feeling lonely and damn near suicidal, there were less resources available to him back then than there are today. Which proves my point again. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying even if that person feels like crap, and nothing I'm saying or nothing anyone says, even a professional would land there. The help, the solution is available today. There were no solutions on record before, at least not to people that look like us. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. It was especially for boys. If you're going to be honest, it's where I'm from. It was the boys. The boys would have to suck it up.
But the suicide rates back then and compared to now.
We don't have the numbers for back then. That was my point earlier. That's what I was. You see what I'm saying? I was saying earlier that.
But then, how then do you now qualify to say back then
Mm,
it was better than now, or now is better? What if now we have more? And if what if
I
we
was being.
compare?
Okay.
And
Fair. I
also,
was
let's
being.
say, let's
I
say
was
we compare
okay.
from when we started finding out. Like, has it been going up or is it been going down? Because that will also show you that people are not, people are also depressed. Because if the suicide rates are going up, which I assume, like I think I'm not still sure, but I think I had this conversation somewhere else where they were saying it's going up. Suicide rates are going up. Even for women, they're now also going up.
Suicide rates, from my knowledge, over the last 2 years, especially among teenage girls, has gone up in the United States due to COVID-19 and kids being stuck at home. There's no disputing that. What we're speaking about is over 40, 50 years ago, when there may not have been any tools available to record what we're speaking about, specifically loneliness, specifically suicide.
Yeah, but that's
I,
50 years.
I,
I'm talking about 20 years. I'm
okay,
talking about 10 years. Like, because there's a
okay,
trend, right? The trend, it's either it's going down or it's going up, or it's
right. So
it's stable.
I'm saying two things can be true at the same time in this instance, right?
Yeah.
It can be currently true that there are more of us alive today living a higher, better quality of life,
Why
and
though? It's
more of us
because
have the opportunity
because
today
the
than ever
mortality
before.
rates is not just
There could be more of us becoming more and more progressively depressed.
no,
But
well,
you see, all right, hang on. In social science, it's a very tricky thing. It's not like uh, uh, a hard biological or physical science that you can look at a cancerous cell and say there are literally more cancerous cells today than before.
that's true.
People have to people have to come out and say
That's
this.
true.
So they may be, so honestly, there may be more reports of it, but we don't know. We cannot know because there's too much that changed over even the last 20 years, whether or not we have actually more cases or more people that are lonely, more people that are suicidal. We just suicidal is beyond refute, but with loneliness, you have to. It's extremely difficult, Oliver,
No,
to
no, I get
measure
it. But then,
that.
if it is extremely difficult, then how do we come to the conclusion that life is better now compared to back then? If we can't really,
Because measuring loneliness versus measuring what I'm speaking about are two different measures.
because the thing
So
is, people being
I
here,
so I spoke about
people being
I
alive,
spoke
more
about
people
I
being
spoke
alive.
about
You understand? It's not just because people don't just die because of suicide. People also
right.
die because remember, we now have technology. We now have medicine. We now have things that can increase our lifespan. So it's not simply because of loneliness
Right.
and people dying. Like now, if you have cancer, you can go chemotherapy. That's going to increase your chances of survival. Even giving birth. Nowadays, now have C sections and stuff like that. Back then, women would die giving birth. You know, so these modern conventions have made it easier for us to increase the lifespan because
Yes, you're saying yes. You prove my point. Yeah,
yeah, but that's what
exactly.
I'm trying to say. It doesn't mean that people are happier. It doesn't mean that it's the best time to be alive. It's the best time in terms of technology, in terms of access to certain things, but does that really say that people are now happier because they are living longer?
Well, I didn't say people were happier. Um, I'm saying
Or does it mean that life is now better? Because if you are here and you're not happy and you're depressed and you're on medication, even antidepressants, whatever,
mm,
the rate at which they are now being prescribed It's getting higher.
All right. Psychiatry. See, what? Yeah, there's almost too much. There's not enough time in the world to unpack. Even that. There's a lot of overdiagnosis happening in the field of psychiatry. For example, I can give an example. When I was studying one of my courses, a big problem that they had was that too many kids are being diagnosed in the UK uh, with ASD, so any form of ASD, autism spectrum disorder, or attention deficit, ADHD, for example. So they were saying like these kids were acting erratic, and you know they were too emotional and they were illogical, and they were prescribing these kids like highly, heavily like psychiatric drugs
Yeah.
or doses. But an interesting finding was that these kids were between a year and a half and 4 years old. So they were expecting toddlers to behave like adults. So this is just a small sample of overdiagnosis happening in psychiatry. So if you're going to use a report like that and say, well, oh, the number of so and so is rising, is it?
It's not just
Or
that. Even alcohol consumption, even drugs, even like
uh, 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 Oliver, if there's life, there's hope.
no.
I, I, I cannot, I cannot, I cannot, I cannot.
Life has
I'm
to be
sorry.
meaningful. Life has to be meaningful. If you're living life,
Yes,
if you're here and
yes,
you're just
and
waiting, because do you know there are people who are just simply waiting for the day that they'll die. It's simply in number one, the guilt
yes,
of the
yes.
whole, being. There are a lot of
But
people who,
I'm not disputing that, Oliver. But economists, psychologists, psychiatrists, mystics across many fields of study, whether you believe in any of that shit or not, or people with two eyeballs and a brain in between, have concluded, in spite of all the bad news out there, that there is good news. And part of the good news is there's never been a better time to be alive than today.
yeah, I
So,
don't understand what it means.
both things can be true, and the quality of life that you are speaking about has
That
improved
I agree. I'm not disputing
across
that.
the board.
That
No,
I'm
well, earlier you were
no.
saying
I say the
earlier you were
quality of life in terms of because you have clean water, you have access to cars, you have access
we have
to
medicine, we have diseases that we had never even heard about.
exactly that part. I'm not
Yeah,
disputing that. Like I'm not disputing that, but I'm talking of about it from like a social standpoint, like us as human beings, because we are social beings, right? Like
yes.
we like human interaction and stuff like that, and like most of the things that are going on right now, it's like an illusion. Like it's not real. If you get what I'm trying
Hmm.
to say. So
Okay.
most people are escaping reality by being in this virtual world where, you know, when they sit back, when they're now by themselves, when they try to reflect, it's not a fulfilling life. You know, they're living life to impress other people. They're living life so that this person can accept me. They're living life, you know, it, it, it's
Meaningless.
it's
I get it.
meaningless. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying the
Yeah.
quality of life. We have right now. I'm using computers to talk to you. We're not even in the same room. It has made it easier, but we can't just take the benefits
Well, okay.
and ignore the
No,
cons.
I agree with that. I agree with that claim, and I appreciate you bringing that up to me because that's very important. Um, when there is life, there is hope, and in hope there is meaning, and I think that's a big part of why we're having this conversation today, not just about loneliness, but about suicidality. If you are in that state, I presume, and it's very presumptuous of me, so forgive me, but I presume you may not have any hope. You may not see any light. You may not see any future, and worst, you may not think your life has any meaning. And with actual clinical help, with professional guidance that can take you through very clinical approaches, you can restore your health, you can restore the way that you see life, your will to live, and on top of that, you can give yourself what's very important, which is meaning. You can give yourself, or you can restore that faith you have in life and have meaning there, um, and that can spread to others. Uh, I don't know. I think it was Socrates that said the unexamined life is not worth living. But I guess I would pose perhaps a more appropriate question today, which is what I posed earlier. If you have everything on earth, what's the point without, if you can't share it with someone? And I think a lot of loneliness comes from that feeling like, well, nobody wants to share anything with me. Nobody wants to be anything. And that may not be true. That just may be an honest flaw in your thinking. And I say that not to say that you are wrong or somebody's wrong. I'm saying that to say clinically, we've found that sometimes our thoughts lie to us. Sometimes we're wrong. We're wrong. And a lot of this is why I had a predicate or a show before that was like a predicate to this about information, disinformation, and misinformation, because a lot of what we feed ourselves, a lot of what we tell ourselves informs how we move forward, informs how we make decisions. And so if you are feeding yourself this constant narrative, if I can say that, that the world is a real shit show, a real shithole, and my life has no meaning, these actual thoughts may objectively, if I may say that, be wrong.
That's true. But also
It-
trying to assume that everything is perfect when everything is not perfect can also, because here's what happens. What I've
it's not.
realized.
I
Here's
hope you don't think that's what I'm saying.
here's what I've realized. Number one,
Yeah.
personally, I think you need to accept. Like you need to look at things like objectively. Like okay, things are not where I want them to be, but this is not what I
Right.
want. What are the steps that I'm going to take? Because the thing is, if you solve something that's not there, you might just move in circles. But if number one, you admit that there's a problem, even with the whole addiction and stuff, they say number one, you have to admit that you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you always say, oh, I'm fine. I don't have a problem. Like everything's perfect. So that's why I'm like, I know we have hope. That's true. But we have to acknowledge what the problems are.
Well, so I wanna be clear because something you said earlier. This is what reminds me of it. When I mentioned loneliness and suicidality, this transcends sadness, and feelings that are passing. Of, oh, I'm really not happy right now because I failed a test, or I'm really unhappy, or I'm really sad about X, Y, Z. We're not talking about a fleeting emotion.
I
You know,
completely
so,
understand.
so, so, so in this case, there's no advice that I can give, or anything that I can give of any utility. That's why I gave the disclaimer earlier. And it's not me pretending that the world is perfect. It's me saying, nope, things are not perfect. Things are nowhere near perfect. I think things are better, but it doesn't mean that they're perfect. Things are better today that you can get help. And I recommend highly professional help. People that know what they're doing, people that do this for a living,
Yeah,
people that have done this forever. And I'm not, different approach. I also want to say this again because I don't have to just plug, mental health experts. Different things work for different people.
different
Sometimes,
strokes for different
right?
folks.
Different folks. So if an alternative means of healing you, that's what works for you. It could be art. It could be music. It could be a yoga, or what they call chakras and reiki, whatever it is. And I'm not trying to push things that are supposedly unhealthy or unconventional for the sake of it.
The,
I'm saying, say, we have solutions. This is not a dead end.
yeah,
Life is worth living. and you can attain a higher quality of life, you can attain a meaningful life. It is possible, in my view. Um, and with this loneliness and stuff, this is something that can be acknowledged. And sometimes, if you're lonely, or which can be a byproduct of being depressed, you may not be able to stop yourself and say, "Well, there's a problem here. Let's fix this," because you are in a less than savory state of mind, an unhealthy state of mind. It takes a healthy mind to pause and do what you're asking it to do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And the thing is, with me personally, I would say, I think I think we're on the same page.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
say, I would agree with you that there are more people who have their shit together than people who are going through stuff, right? But what I would encourage is for those people who are in a good space to empathize more
Yeah.
with people so that they can lift them up. Get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So people like you, I can see that your energy is high, it's up, and I know you always do it. You always have an ear. You always, avail yourself to, like to people so that they can come at you if they have any, situations that they're dealing with, and you empathize with people. That's what we are lacking nowadays. It's like the people who have their shit together, they're like, hey, to each their own. Like I don't know you, because we now live in societies where we don't really have ties, you know. So if I
Mm-hmm.
don't know you, I don't need to help you. I don't need
Mm-hmm.
to put myself, remember what I was saying the other time. It seems as if nowadays the world does not owe you understanding. Like
Right.
people don't give a
Right.
shit. Like if you're going through stuff, okay, it is what it is. Like people
Right.
don't like. It's not a lot of people who can sit down and realize that no, this person is going through stuff. You know, I can help them get out of where they're going. Like, do you understand that nowadays, even getting a compliment, even just
Yeah.
someone saying hi, you understand? Even with this whole mask thing, like, someone sees you, they try to cover their mouth. They don't want to have
Yeah.
anything to do with you. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? So those things are,
Old. Yep. 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 Yep.
so for me, I think the people who have the ability to empathize with those who are like in the deep end, let's try and save the others. That way, I can tell you that if we achieve that, then I would say things, you know, I would be happy personally. Like, and for someone like me, the way I
Mm.
help people sometimes, people don't like it. I don't cement. I don't tell you things that you want to hear.
Mm.
That's not me. Because if I do that, I don't think I'll be helping you. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you come to me with a problem, I'll tell you, okay, this is the problem. But I'm going to be honest with you. This is where you fucked up.
Mm.
But that's not the end of the world. How do we fix it? Okay, let's move from here to here to here, so that you see that the problem is there. We have to acknowledge the problem first. But how do we move so that we minimize any risks, or we have a higher chance of success? I'm not going to hope for something. I'm going to make sure that it's a calculated decision, you know,
Mm.
or plan. It might not work out, but at least the probability is high. You get what I'm saying? Because as human beings, we always choose the, like the what do they call this? Is it less path, whatever, of resistance, whatever?
It's path of resistance. Yeah.
Exactly. That's just
Yeah.
how we are. It's natural, right? And
Yeah.
nowadays, what's that? It's an escape. People can
Mm.
just go in the metaverse. They can just go on social media. They can just drink. They can just do drugs. It's not helping.
Right.
So those who are not doing those things are the ones who are supposed to, you know. But I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I've lost hope. Like my hope is in the people who have their shit together to say, guys,
I.
and
Yeah. You've made me pause and empathize more with those who may not see things the way I do, in terms of having a positive outlook on that, and that's a good part of why I'm here, why we're here. Um, well, folks, you've listened to us for quite some time, and uh, we hope you had as much fun as we did. uh, we if you have any comments, questions, any thing you want to add of any utility, you're more than welcome to do so. We're gonna try to have all the information that we referenced for you available to you by the end of the show. You can go ahead and click on the links available um, on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast, wherever we're available. And again, I just want to close out by saying I am forever and eternally grateful for my brother Oliver for having me here. What was supposed to be a one-time, maybe two-time thing has become a
Permanent.
partnership. He just can't get rid of me, folks. I'm sorry. But I really enjoy these shows, and I really enjoy the time we spend together. And I personally, because I want to be a clinician one day, it's not the only way I see things, but I feel I have a real responsibility as a human being um, to share what I can. I don't have all the answers. That's why I have the disclaimers. But I'm glad to have the the blessing to use this platform with Oliver to at least have this conversation.
Yep.
And, in spite of things that I'm very concerned about, I'm still very concerned about cancel culture. I'm still very concerned about all of that. I'm pretty. There are some episodes I've listened to, and I'm like, I'm in trouble. Like this, I can't get the job I want to get in 20 years. It's not gonna happen. Like it's legit. It's legit. But in spite of that, I guess I still have hope.
Yeah.
And not that I have my shit together, but if there's anything I can do that's of any utility for others, I can pass it along because others did that for me. And I think it starts with empathy. It starts with putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It starts with um, feeling what they felt and responding accordingly. And I hope we do that. So if you do feel down, if you feel like you're in a moment of despair, if you feel lonely to a point where you feel like life is no longer worth living, I hope you reconsider, and I hope you do decide to call your nearest suicide prevention hotline, or you reach out to a loving friend, or
Exactly.
or you if none of those things are available, you pause and try to reach out to a mental health professional. Thankfully, these resources are available in most regions where people can hear our voices,
That's true.
and that's the beautiful thing about being alive today. So, did you have any closing words?
Yeah, yeah. In closing, man, like we live in, like you said, things are easier. Like we have access to these things, but it's not professional help, but this is what has worked for me. Like
Mm,
you need to have friends, man. It might
mm,
not be a lot, even one. You know, someone that you can trust. I know it's not easy to trust people because I've realized that the mistake that we make most of the times is when we are, in relationships. It's not easy to open up to the other person because that relationship might not really be guaranteed. Because nowadays romantic relationships are just like, yeah, it just comes and then it goes, and sometimes your words can be used against you, like what you say, what you
mm,
tell
mm,
someone. So if you're a guy, I think having like a brotherhood, or you can have a mentor, someone who's older, someone who's wiser. It doesn't have to be a relative, but if you have your father and you have that relationship, it's always good to have someone that you know that they'll listen to. You start small. You don't start by telling them everything. You start small. You see how they respond. How they act, and because it's not nice. You tell someone something, and then the next day you hear the whole neighborhood talking about it. So you want to make sure that you're talking to someone who's got integrity, someone that you can see that they've been here for quite some time, and then they're doing something with their lives. And let's stop making celebrities our role models because it's unrealistic. You know, this whole thing of seeing Nicki Minaj, which I don't have a problem with, but we don't know her like that. We only see the good side. You know, you're seeing all these celebrities, and then you're saying these are my role models. We don't really know these people. We don't really know their shortcomings. We don't know what they do behind closed doors. You know, so sometimes they might not be the best role models for us. You know, so it's always good to go for people that you know personally. They might not have all the money, you know, but they will be able to get you out of certain situations. That's number one. Number two, this might sound harsh, but it's the truth. The world that we live in does not owe you understanding. It's unfortunate. So you might go to someone thinking they're going to help you, and they don't. Don't give up. Just because this person didn't help you, it doesn't mean the next person is not going to help you, you know? And don't, like I said, don't go out there entitled. You know, there are good people and there are bad people in the world. You'll meet, there's a chance that you'll meet the good and the bad too. So don't lose hope. You know, there is, life is amazing. Like if it has purpose, it is amazing. Like for me, ever since I had my kid, life has never been the same again, you know? Like, and I won't lie to you. There are times where I feel like it's time to give up. And one of those times, Albert was my, you know, my savior. He was there to listen as a friend. We like, he like, that's why I always have so much respect for you, you know. That's why, and the funny thing that people don't really understand, me and Albert don't go out to clubs together. We don't have that friendship. You know, and that's what made me comfortable to talk to him about these things. We are very good friends. Like, if I'm going through something, he can help me. I know that. But we don't really go out together like that. He has other people that he goes out with. You know, those are. So you need also to compartmentalize your friendships. You need to understand. You can't say the friend that you gossip with is the same friend that you know, go tell your problems. Because remember, if they're doing something with you, it means you're still going to go out there and tell other people. Like, me and Albert don't really have mutual friends like that. So if I tell him something and he goes out there and says it, like, I don't care. He can tell them, but I know he won't do it, you know. So you need to be strategic about how you form your friendships and your relationships, because that's also something that's very, you know, crucial. Because, like I said, I don't consider him to be a friend. I consider him to be my brother, you know, that I never had, because, you know, I'm the only son. So, you know, he is that. Like, I don't have to call Albert every day, like what you guys do with your friends, which is questionable to me, you know. But I know that when I make that call and he misses my call, he's going to return that call because he knows that it's important. You know? So people need to understand where they stand, like in their relationships and, you know, whatever it is. So I agree with you. I haven't lost hope, but I'm also trying to be realistic and realize that some of the things that we're doing to ourselves, they're not the best. You know,
Of course.
like, if you're going through stuff, log out of these stupid social media apps, man. Like, you can live without them until you get yourself right. This whole thing of someone is seeing that they're being bullied online, someone is saying shit about them, they still go back to the same people, right? To watch their content. For example, if what we're saying right now, someone doesn't agree with it, why do you keep coming back?
Keep coming back. Yeah.
It's a choice.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you don't just stay away from things that you know that they're going to trigger certain thing, and, you know, live a healthy life, man. Eat healthy. Stay away from this nonsense that, you know, we're eating these days, and it's, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, thanks, man.
Oh man, Oliver, my brother, I love you. I don't know who that Albert guy I don't know who that guy you were talking about. He sounds like a great guy, but I'm just happy to be here.
Get
in
out of here,
present.
man. This is 45 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. That's it. We just reached 40. Hey man, love and light always, guys. I'm pretty sure these people are tired of hearing our voice, but We look forward to coming back real soon
with a lighter topic,
with something fresh. Yeah, something fresh.
something light,
Yep.
one that doesn't deal with death and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But then things famba, walk good and take it easy, as they say in Jamaica, which just means goodbye.
yeah, but yeah, thanks, man. I think these conversations are important because if we don't talk about it, people will just keep things and just sweep them under the rug, which is crazy because
Hmm.
you don't want to do that. You want to talk about stuff. You want to open these discussions and have this conversation. So yeah, we're open to it. Like contact it and learn the bull, and then the bull Instagram, whatever, all other social media platforms. Let's talk about it. So yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Do I? Maybe, but yeah. Uh,
Yeah, man.
it's yeah. Thanks, man. You can
Always.
close everything.
All right, guys, take it easy. Walk good. You know where to find us. We love you.
Yeah, man.
Bye.
Outer.